Dear smartphone companies, it is time. It is time to create something that we haven't seen in this new decade. With the release of the Samsung Galaxy S20 and the OnePlus 8 Pro, those two phones more or less made me make this video because I realized that they and so many other phones have been giving us the same devices every year with just little incremental updates here and there. Now, as consumers, we more or less now are in a place where we are deciding what we buy based off on price, as opposed to this feature is better for me or this phone does this better than this phone. And in smartphone history, doesn't that remind you of Nokia and BlackBerry? Now, what I'm saying is that these incremental updates are far ahead from what BlackBerry and Nokia were doing. So this is more or less my open letter to smartphone companies that we need to do something that is totally different. Now, as usual, right before we get into the video, this is my normal call to action to you guys to subscribe to the channel. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers and it'd be great if I can get there in good time. So please subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so you can get notified when I drop videos like this weekly. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Smartphones have had a great run for the better part of the last decade plus 3 years. Now I'm going to use when the iPhone was unveiled in 2007 because that's arguably the rise of smartphones and where it is today. In an era where people use keypads, Apple came up with something that we hadn't seen before. From multi-touch to a camera on the back, a browser on the phone, a music player, and most importantly, instant messaging amongst other things. We were all blown away by Apple's iPhone, and since then, a lot of smartphone companies have broken milestone to milestone in that regard. From giving us bigger displays, bigger batteries that can last us the whole day, at least sometimes anyway, a dedicated app store, and sharing moments with friends. Now, between say 2017, that's where I'm going to pick this up from. It all feels like we've been having the same phone year in, year out. It looks like we have the same phone that has the same bezel-less displays, a decent million pounds of battery, OLED displays, and no headphone jack here, and a lot of things that we've already seen. And with that, created a conversation amongst my friend and a few tech YouTubers of mine, which just begs the same question: have we reached the peak of smartphones and what it can do? Now, for someone like myself that has reviewed smartphones and softwares from time to time, it's important that we look at the data to actually conclude if we've actually reached that peak. But before we even do that, we should even go back and see where we were before to make some sort of conclusion itself. Now, if we look back at what we've done in the last 10 years, it is quite clear that smartphones have evolved so much between, say, 2007 to 2020. What we had before isn't what we have now. Like, for example, having a camera on the phone that is better than some DSLR cameras, or at least a lot of people don't even know the difference. You have different lenses like the ultra-wide lens that is substituted buying different lenses for your camera. We have an ecosystem that works seamlessly amongst devices from smartphone companies. Yes, Apple, I'm looking at you. But we also have fingerprint scanners that are under the display. We have fast chargers. We have phones that can charge in 30 minutes to an hour. We have waterproof phones, and we have so many other things that we didn't have in 2007 that we have in 2020. Now, I want to agree that we've reached that peak smartphone height, but I also want to disagree because technology and tech is very, very volatile. At one point, you can be in a stagnant position, and tomorrow, someone brings out something that changes the entire world. And I think that may be the case that is coming. But for now, we're just going to settle for 6.7-inch displays with 5,000 mAh batteries and so many other things. Speaking of specs, stop me if you haven't heard these specs before. 4,000 to 5,000 mAh of battery, 6 to 16 gigs of RAM on the phone, 256 gig to 1 terabyte of memory on the phone, and a triple camera system with the normal wide angle lens, telephoto lens, and ultra wide lens. Stop me if you haven't heard that already. These are specs that Samsung, OnePlus, Motorola, iPhone, if you're removing the amount of RAM in it, Huawei, and so many others have. A lot of these phones have the same spec sheets, but little unique features that set them apart from each other. Now, and a lot of these phone companies are flagship quality phones, and based on research and sales, a lot of companies are finding it hard to move these phones off their shelves. Now, with research and data, the big phone companies like Apple, Samsung, and Google are moving towards making mid-range phones that still has the whole flagship appeal to it. Now, they are emulating what OnePlus has been doing for a couple of years since the very beginning, which is so funny because right now, OnePlus just released a $1,000 OnePlus 8 Pro flagship, which just kind of kills that earlier mantra of being a flagship killer. I guess that saying is true. You either die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain. Now, these phone companies won't stop making flagships. We're still going to get the Apple iPhone 12, the iPhone 13, Pixel 5, Pixel 6, maybe, I'm not sure. But these phone companies have realized that a lot of people aren't buying phones based on features, but based on what they can afford. As a lot of people are going to rationalize why they need to spend $8,000 every single year. With this realization, a few phone companies are trying to convince you guys to buy these phones. Like Google, for example. They release a flagship in October, and by Black Friday in November, it's almost half the price of what they intended to sell it for. They even go ahead and give discounts and payment plans for the Pixel phones. Samsung is another great example. Samsung gives Spotify and YouTube Premium when you get the Samsung Galaxy S10 or the S20 or the Z Flip. Now you can consider the price it takes to manufacture these phones, like the S20, which is $400 and is being sold for $1,000 and has different variants that go as high as $1,300. In comparison, that's the same price as the 2020 MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro. Wild, isn't it? Each decade or each era brings in something new every single time. From the Motorola Dynatac to the smaller handheld devices to internet or mobile phones and to smartphones that have had updates for the last 13 years. So it's a new decade, it's 2020. Are foldable phones the new revolutionary tech in this new decade? I mean, comment below and let me know. They've more or less had mixed reviews every now and then, but people are still more or less open to the debates about foldable phones and if it's going to be a thing of this era. Do you think smartphones have reached a plateau, and what do you think or what do you expect in the newer phones that are coming out this year? Comment below and let me know. Now, if you like this video, clicking the like button is the best way to help me out. And if you're new here, you should consider subscribing, as I release videos like this every week. And the best time or the first time to see them is through a subscription. My name is KJOS. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one where we talk all things tech.